Hi folks, bit of a different style thing today because I kind of want to talk to you all about something that's sort of been bothering me lately. So this week there's been two particular events which have happened in the gaming retro communities. One's more on the modern side, one's more on the retro side, that kind of worry me a lot because of preservation and history and all of this stuff. Now the first really is the iOS side of things. So Apple are in the middle of, as I'm recording this, it's Wednesday night, they're in the middle of, would it be Tuesday, for their yearly developer conference, and one of the biggest changes with the new iOS is basically killing off all really old apps. Now, I can see why they do this from a technical side, and actually that side of it I pretty much understand, by reducing the compatibility in the software, it makes the platform a little more efficient. The problem is, apps isn't so bad. A lot of really good apps are going to be actively maintained by the developers, so they'll likely get updates. Most of them probably are already fine. They've continued to be maintained over the last few years, so they're all probably fine. But what it comes down to is games. And for me personally, someone who plays a lot of small retro-y style games, a lot of those aren't going to get their updates anytime soon. A lot of them are games that are no longer available on the App Store completely because they are the kind of games that didn't do well financially, and so the developers have really had no choice but to stop supporting them. And along with that, they've let their App Store developer agreements lapse. That's a topic for another time. And those games are no longer available to download, they're not going to get any updates, and they're just going to stop working. Now, it's something that's been bothering me for a while because I'm just going to say it out there. I have a game that is in this situation. I've been trying to work on it when I can between videos and other things and between working on another game, but it's a thing that's boring because it's like the game works fine, but I have to still go through this update, which I want to do because entropy is a bad thing in general, and in software it's kind of a bit more troubling. And it's a troubling development because I think we're seeing it in our iOS on a wide scale. The death of digital games isn't such a thing. If you've ever seen the channel behind Accursed Farms for Ross's Game Dungeon, he does a series on that. I'll pop a link in the description where he talks about a lot of service-based games that shut down, and it's a dangerous precinct. But at the time, a lot of smaller online games rather than. And there's also been digital purchase on the Xbox 360 and PS3 that are no longer available because of licensing, and that's also been an annoyance, but it's never happened on such a wide scale. And I guess I kind of want to talk about it a bit because I think it's something that end users should be aware of, that this is going to happen. You probably already started seeing it, honestly, but you've probably not thought about it with some game you might play up once in a blue moon or some infrequently used utility. And it's sort of the stage where I think as consumers, as developers, from both sort of angles, I'm trying to sort of be this on both because I experience it on both sides. We need to be a little more aware of it, and we need to start being a bit more vocal that this isn't fair, right? I'm not angry at the developers who couldn't afford to keep their App Store account open. I fully understand that economical thing. Like, my first iOS game did not make a lot of money, which is why I made it free. But anyone says it did a lot better on iOS than it did on Android, so sorry folks. But in effect, it's a troubling circumstance because I think we're going to see a lot more things happen. It's like one of the things with developing games for mobiles these days is it's really about that sort of service hook. You can't just. It's not the budget days or the 8-bit days, as much as I love it, all over again. You've really got to keep those games active and updated, and perhaps this is a way to clean the craft, but at the same time I think it is a little penalising. So if you are in that position, you have like an iOS device for a bunch of old games, you basically got to keep an old device around. That's pretty much the big hit. If you can keep like an old device around that's running iOS 9 or 10 or earlier around, you'll probably be okay, because you can just make sure you never update. The other thing that's worth doing as well, if you have any games on your device that probably are in this situation, try to make a backup. Connect your device to iTunes, pull them off. It's a bit of a pain, doubly so if you've changed computers and you haven't done the library migration, because that's a right roll pain in the butt. But yeah, it's something that we all have to be aware of. The other incident, and in a way is a bit more troubling, and in other ways less so, is World of Spectrum, which there is a lot of politics connected around that World of Spectrum has basically been a casualty of. I'm not really going to talk about those. I know bits of the story. I don't know everything about the context of that, but from what I gather, I woke up this morning and saw exploding on Twitter that the World of Spectrum website had gone down. Now, World of Spectrum, for those who don't really follow the Spectrum side of things, is pretty much the main archive for the Specky. It's the equivalent of Atari Mania or Gamebase or Lemon or whatever. It was the one-stop shop where, more or less, because one thing that was really cool about World of Spectrum was that they actually were getting permits for allowing those games to download, which is a bit of a double-edged sword, because it meant that as the premier archive, some of those games you couldn't have access on. And someone does collect and likes to review original games using original copies, well, digital thereof. It's a bit of a pain that some of those games I've got to get around to dumping myself for that reason, which is a bit of a pain. That's really an aside. Essentially, why this is sort of an important thing is that there was a lot of good auxiliary information, documentation and covers and things like that. Now, for the most part, most people don't care about that when I play games. I know there's a lot of people who very proudly say, I don't look at the instructions, which is fine. For me, it's having that access that is important, because it's good for research and understanding when I go to cover a game, which the formula that I do on the channel. So losing that archive, and I should clarify, there has been some good news received on that front, as it looks like it may be mirrored. But this kind of thing, like, honestly, I feel like when I get a chance, I'd love to try and get to a mirror and have a local mirror. I have a local copy of Gamebase 64 that I always update for that reason when I need to dive into 64 stuff. Like, essentially, there sort of comes a point where we need to be, as a community, many things, like not just mirroring sites, but helping, like, keeping this information available. And what I want to talk about it is, I think that one of the things for me is I'm getting sort of more and more interested in wanting to do that. I sort of want to talk a bit more, like, it's why I take the approach I take for my videos. But I've been thinking about doing a lot more. It's why I think I want to do a lot more critiquing. And it's why I like talking about less popular, less well-known titles, because they're not the ones that are going to get covered. They're not the ones that are going to get, great little write-ups and of videos done from other people. And that's why I kind of feel a bit bummed that gameplay videos don't seem to do well these days, which is a shame, because I think a good gameplay video with someone playing who knows the game is actually a really valuable resource. Not like someone who plays the game, someone who knows the game, and someone who's actually talking about the game. Like, I don't want to watch like a video where someone is waffling not about the game is sort of not the main thing I want to watch these days. I kind of want to learn something about a game. But I think as a community, if we are a community, I think that this is something we need to be mindful of, and I think that we need to sit down and we need to do some things about this, and we need to start thinking about it, and I think we need to be a bit more proactive. And I'll be honest, I don't have the answers here. I'd like to think my little corner of the videos I produce are kind of some of how I'm contributing to that, and I kind of would love to hear from people about that. Like, are there things that we can do as a community a bit better to try and, decentralize some of this stuff, so that we don't lose a massive archive and lose 20 odd years of history and material. Do we start, do each of us as individuals start making copies of sites that we care about, of these archives, and have them local in case something goes wrong? Or, how do we do that? I guess for me, this is just a thing because, I've been very interested in this history side for a while. A lot of my long term, a lot of things I want to talk about sort of around that, and I'm interested in studying it, which is why I want to talk about it. And I've always said that the videos I do are educational to myself because I get to study design of these old games. As someone who designs a lot of quick-fire arcade experiences and who didn't have a formal game design education, this is how I educate myself. And I know developer friends do actually enjoy what I put out. I know that stuff's been on an academic. I've had vids of mine apparently been referred to an academic media, which is kind of cool because of the attention to detail. But I'd like to think that as a community, that it's something we should all have on the back of our minds, and it should be more about, just like more than today, right? And I think that there's a lot of retro content that feels very much of today, and I think that perhaps we can all sit down, have a bit of a think, and think about just what we can all do in terms of tomorrow or the future. Like, that's something that I'm going to consciously be thinking about, and I'd like it if, as a retro computing or retro gaming enthusiast, you take some time out to consider doing the same. I think it'll be great for all of us. Games are, to me, I kind of believe games are the art form of the 21st century. And we've seen that the art form of the 20th century, film, TV, there are a lot of old movies that are lost. There's a lot of old TV shows that are lost. Right, these are kind of the area. I like to think that today, where we are with our games, is kind of past those initial silent media days and starting to get a bit further along. But our 8-bit games are kind of that silent media, the silent movies, and that's we're good on some fronts, but we're bad on some other fronts, and that might be a video I elaborate on another day. I think I just wanted to get this off my chest a bit. I do think it's really important, and I'm hoping that maybe it's something you can be out and you think it's very important. And if it is, let's have a chat about it. Let's have a bit back and forth in the comments. I love to hear anything, your thoughts. Perhaps you have some ideas on this that might actually be really, really worth thinking about in terms of how we can sort of keep that stuff alive, and how we can, be a little bit mindful that this aspect of our, of our pastime and stuff like that is kind of under threat. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to have another gameplay video coming up in a couple of days. As always, I just want to get this one out because it's a little bit of a hot topic, and I want to get some notes, and I kind of want to start talking about this stuff a lot more. So as always, please do hit that thumbs up button. It means a lot for videos being liked, and if you stuck around to the end, thank you very much for that. Let's have a chat about this in a nice civil way. I think it's really important, and I'm hoping you do as well. I think if you're sub to the channel, I'd like to believe. I have faith in you that you're someone who does care about this aspect. So let's have a chat and maybe think about some stuff. And as always, if you haven't already, Fridays when I publish a new video, Friday evening in Australia, click the sub button. Also turn on the notifications if you want, just so you can be notified as these videos come out. That's pretty much all I want to say for this time, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.